What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video, reacting to comparing sound differences of a cheap bass versus an expensive bass by Online Bass Guitar. So what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be reacting to comparing the sound differences of a cheap bass versus an expensive bass by Online Bass Guitar. As always, if you have not already subscribed to Online Bass Guitar, go ahead and do so. Go and give them a sub. And in the description of my video here, I have the link for the original video. Go and give the original video a like. And on this video, my video, leave a comment on what you'd like to see me react to next, and let us be getting to it.
So on the menu today, it's expensive basses like these versus cheap basses like these. Stick around. Now, when I was researching this video, I actually realized this is a much more nuanced topic than we often give it credit for. A lot of the time, we often think it's just a case of the better player you are, the more expensive instrument you get. So the pros get the most expensive stuff, beginners get the cheap stuff.
No.
What I realized is I know loads of professional bass players who purposefully buy really cheap instruments. Now, we'll compare sound differences of expensive and cheap.
You see, and I've said this in other videos before about relative subject, not necessarily cheap bass versus expensive bass, but just about the whole affordable gear in general versus expensive gear. In most cases, the professional musicians do not have top of the line gear simply because they can't afford it most of the time. Unless they're getting some sort of endorsement or they're sponsored or they're on a whole nother level, but most full-time musicians can't afford the top of the line gear. It's, what's the term? Blues lawyers, you know, the people that have really good day jobs that play, that are usually hobbyists, can usually play quite well, and even if they can't, they're the ones that can usually afford to grab, you know, a brand new, you know, all-American custom shop Fender jazz bass that costs, you know, $3-4 grand, you know, where most of us can't afford it. That's usually the thing, in most cases.
Cheap basses in a minute, but given that professionals use cheap instruments, the first question I want to ask is it actually still worth buying an expensive bass? So the first thing we've got to think about is actually how will the bass be used over the lifetime of its ownership. So for example, this Sadowski here, which is pretty expensive bass, has been on planes, it's been in tour buses, it's been in theatres, it's been pretty much everywhere. But because of the lifestyle that it's had, you can see in places it's kind of come out a bit worse for wear. So it's got some knocks and some dings, particularly here and around the back. Now all of this has made me think twice about putting it on a plane again because I don't want to get damaged. Trying to buy another one of these would be really expensive. So what a lot of professionals do instead is they will buy cheap instruments like this Glary J bass here. So I mean this is about $70, so really at the extreme cheap end of it. They'll buy something like this.
I think I have that exact bass that I just did on a review, except for in natural stain color, and I ended up having the neck replaced. I replaced it for a 22 fret neck. That's funny. I have the exact, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same Glary Jazz bass as mine, except for his is black. But yeah, like I said, I replaced the neck. Oh, unbelievable. Yeah. And it's a great sounding bass. I just replaced the neck because it was only like 20 frets. I wanted at least 22, you know, so I got another neck thrown in there, had my tech do it for me. But sound-wise, even with the old neck, you know, it was a great bass. It still is a great bass. All original parts minus the neck, electronics, the pickups, they sound good. It just, it sounds good. That, never mind the name on the headstock. Never mind how much you paid for it. Listen with your ears, not with your eyes or your wallets.
And they'll make modifications to it, like they might change the bridge, they might change the pickup, adjust the neck, all of that sort of thing to make it playable. It will sound good, but it will still be cheap. So hopefully you can see that there are some differences between expensive basses and cheap basses, but there's always going to be a trade-off. And as you're about to hear, one of the biggest trade-offs can be in the sound itself. So how do all these basses sound? Let's start with one of the expensive ones first. So 78 Fender P bass, we all know how a P bass sounds. And this bass sounds characterful. Now you might think, okay, P basses have a specific sound and character to them anyway, which is true. But if I unplug this and then plug my Sadowski in,
well,
I again get something that's...
Hold on a second, but that's P bass pickups to J bass pickups. Unless he does the trick where you put on just the neck pickup and roll the tone down to about half. And that's, as we know, and we've heard from Scott's bass lessons and other places, that's how you can get a jazz bass to sound like a P bass. Kill the bridge pickup, have just the neck or middle pickup, whichever way you want to call it on a jazz pick. People call it the neck pickup. It's more of a middle pickup, but it's closest to the neck. There isn't actually a neck pickup. But anyways, that pickup, put it on full, kill the bridge pickup, cut the tone back to half, and it'll sound like a P bass. So yeah, the difference between those two is going to be, I think, astronomical. I wish he would have had, since he's got his nice expensive 78 P bass, I wish he had a cheap P bass that he could have used as a comparison.
It sounds great.
Jazz bass.
But because the quality of the components, the quality of the build is so good with both of these basses, I'm getting something that's really distinctive and really characterful. However, if I now switch to the Glary bass,
there we go.
It sounds okay for a $70 bass, but it just sounds like generic jazz bass. It doesn't have the character of the Sadowski. It doesn't have the character of the P bass. If you're trying to decide whether or not you should spend a lot of money on the bass, the key here is to ask yourself, what do you actually need the bass for?
Now, here's the thing. Yeah, there was a tonal difference. The Sadowski did sound better. But how much better did the Sadowski sound? Because that was the second one, as I was saying. Oh, he's going to compare a P bass to a jazz bass. No. He just went from the P to the jazz, and then from the Sadowski jazz style bass to the Glary jazz bass. Now, there was a bit of a difference, but the Sadowski he probably paid around $3,000 for, I'm guessing, if a ballpark, at least around that, and $70 jazz bass. And here's the thing. You can throw some EQing on there, some compression, decent preamp. A lot of it has to do with the other things that you're throwing into the signal chain. You can make it sound good, and you can make it sound good enough. More than, I don't want to say good enough. Keep in mind, that's when listening to the bass completely soloed out. Just him sitting down playing the bass. That little bit of nuance difference in tone in an entire mix with a full band, with drums, keyboards, layers and layers of guitars and vocals and percussion and all that sort of stuff, you wouldn't really tell that much of a difference in the tone once it's fully mixed, especially with all the stuff that they can throw on a signal in post. And I know it's still always all about get the sound and the tone and the take and everything right going in as opposed to fixing it in post. Yeah, absolutely. But we all know as a bass player, we're going to be taking a DI track to the front of the house or when we're recording as well too. So that way, either front of house, can, EQ the hell out of it, compress the hell out of it, effects, whatever, not necessarily EQ or compress the hell out of it. And the same thing if you got a DI track, even if you're miking up your amp in the studio, you're going to have that DI track that you can use as a backup that you can then later go and process whichever way you want. There's options, is what I'm saying. There's options. There was a difference, but I don't know about an astronomical difference.
If you're a beginner, you want to take up the bass but you're not sure you're going to stick with it, don't spend loads of money on a bass, because there's nothing worse than spending 2 or 3 grand on an instrument that's just going to gather dust in the corner a month after you buy it. Likewise, if you've got a lot of gigs coming up where your bass might get bashed around and pick up some damage, it might be worth your while picking up something cheap that you can modify. If you've got any other points to add to this discussion, let me know by leaving them down in the comments below. If you want to get more information about either of the basses that I've used in this video, I've left links to all of them down below in the description. Now, if you want to check out a full video review of the Glary bass and some of the modifications I've made to it, then check out the videos up here. And if you have enjoyed this video, then please do consider subscribing, because it really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Take care.
All right, there we have that. That's reacting to comparing sound differences of a cheap bass versus an expensive bass by Online Bass Guitar. As always, if you have not already, go to Online Bass Guitar and give them a sub. In the description of my video here, I have a link for the original video. Go and give the original video a like. And on this video, my video, leave a comment on what you'd like to see me reacting to next. Thanks for checking out this video. If you like what you saw, please subscribe, click the notification bell, like, comment, and share. It doesn't cost a thing and would really help out the channel. Also, please subscribe to my other channel, GK Mac Music, for some live looping live streams with a side of jackassery, some original music, and some short content, also with a side of jackassery. If you'd like to help out the channel financially, you can buy some merch at the merch store, or you can become a channel member. As always, everyone, thanks so much for your continued support. Do what makes you happy.